Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GM Sports Report, your weekly podcast on all things sports, where every play counts. I'm Grant, and I'm here with my co-host Mason as we get ready to cover the latest news, headlines, and upcoming events going on in the sports world. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see all things GM Sports Report. Mason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Kind of doing better that I haven't been able to watch some of the last few Yankees games, so that kind of keeps my mood a little high. But yeah, we'll get into it. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's also been a little bit of a rough go for the Cubs, so I can kind of sympathize with you. Oh, that was terrible. But I can feel you a little bit, and we're gonna start out this episode like how we start out every week, and as with our hot take of the week. And I'm pretty sure yours is Yankees related, so I'll let you go ahead and get into that.
Yeah, so I don't think it's too much of a hot take, but Aaron Boone should have been fired last offseason. Um, Me and my cousin Cole, we're big Yankees fans, and we saw that he got extended for another 4 or 5 seasons, whatever it was, and we just were like, man, what in the world? But we are fresh off a World Series season, so everyone in the front office sees it as a win. When in reality, he was the reason that we pretty much lost the series in the first place. So yeah, I think he should have been gotten the chopping block a lot sooner. And I don't think that we're gonna fire him anytime soon. I'd love to, but with that contract he got, I think he's here for a little bit. And yeah, it's just some of his decisions and the way he backs the players on some horrible errors that they commit. And it's like rather than holding them accountable and showing the press and showing the world that they need to be held accountable, he just backs with them and looks even more of an idiot. I feel like that's a little harsh to say, but it's true. You see some of these errors, especially by Volpe. I think he's leading the majors in errors now. And every night it's, oh, he's one of the best shortstops in the game. Clearly, he's not. Statistically, I mean, not even statistically. You watch a Yankees game, you're gonna see Anthony Volpe bobbling it a couple times, and the base running. Oh my goodness, it's been absolutely awful. And it's not just from like say one or two guys; it's the whole team. They don't know how many outs there are. They all think it's 3 outs the whole game, pretty much. So they're just running around like chickens with their head cut off. So it's frustrating to watch. And yeah, so I'd love to see him gone sooner rather than later, but we'll see.
Yeah, I've always not been a big Boone guy. I think that he's too much of a coach's or a player's coach.
Players coach, yeah.
Kind of putting that in an example, like you said, with all the Volpe stuff, like he is not holding Volpe accountable at all, and that's not going to help
No,
Volpe in the long run. Like you got to hold
not
your
going to help
players
the team.
accountable. Yeah, they have to be expected to make easy routine plays, and he's just not right now. You traded for a decent shortstop in Jose Caballero, at least decent defensive wise. So if I'm Aaron Boone and I see Volpe booting all these balls, I'm going to threaten him and say, "Look, we got Jose Caballero now. If you keep struggling, we're going to throw him at shortstop and see how that goes." But that just doesn't seem to be the kind of coach that Boone is. And another thing that I noticed was like with Jazz Chisholm's terrible base running mistake the other day, he was getting more on the first
Hmm.
base coach than he was on Jazz, and I just don't understand like that thought process. Like the players got to know in that situation to get back. But I digress. That's not as much my fight as it is yours. So I can understand where you're upset from, but I don't think he's going to be gone anytime soon. I hate to break it to you,
No,
but
I know.
yeah, I do see where you're coming from because I'm also not a big Boone guy, and I've noticed some things about him as well. All right, my hot take of the week. I'm going something NFL related. Obviously, we saw the Micah
Mm.
Parsons news, him requesting a trade from the Dallas Cowboys. My hot take is that I think that that's all just smoke. I don't think he's actually going to get traded. I think he is just doing this to get an extension. I feel like this is a new tactic that we see in this players' league sort of thing, where if players don't get the contract they want, they threaten that they're going to leave the team just so they can end up getting the contract they wanted all along. We saw this most recently with like Miles Garrett when that whole situation broke down. Um, so yeah, I don't think Micah Parsons is actually getting traded. What about you, Mason? Do you think he'll get traded or no?
I'd love him to, because if any like owner is gonna actually let a guy like Michael Parsons go, it's gonna be Jerry Jones. So, you see what Jerry Jones has done in the past as far as, not making moves when he should have, and the team has been effective, like been impacted greatly. So, yeah, I would love to see him let Micah Parsons go. I'd absolutely love to watch that, dumpster fire just ignite. Um, but I don't think it will happen, but I'm not gonna rule it out, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna watch, see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but like I said, I'd be very shocked if he ends up getting traded.
Mhm.
But I do agree with your statement. If anyone is gonna end up trading him and fumbling that kind of talent,
Yeah.
it will be Jerry Jones. So I do agree with that.
Mhm.
All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and slide over to our underdog of the week. So I'll let you go ahead and give yours.
Yeah, so I could have put him as a player of the week as well, but I wanted to do two different guys, and mine was NL player of the week, and that goes to one of the best names in the league, Rockies shortstop Warming Barnabell. 391 in the past 6 games, 3 home runs, 8 ribbies, 4 doubles, and he's slugging 927. So he's just been absolutely balling. So yeah, huge shout out to Warming Bernabell.
All right, I like that pick. You'll see why I like that pick in a segment or two. Um, but for my underdog of the week, I am going with probably, in my opinion, it's time to start having a conversation about this guy as not only being one of the best power hitters right now, but one of the best power hitters ever to play in the game of baseball. And that underdog of the week is for Kyle Schwarber. This guy has hit his 40th home run last night. And since he's become a Philly, just listen to these home run numbers. In 2021, he had 32 home runs. In 2022, he had 46 home runs. In 2023, he had 47 home runs. In 2024, he had 38 home runs. And in 2025, as of August 5th, he's at 40 home runs already and probably on pace for like 50 something.
Yeah.
This dude is a consistent 40 plus home run hitter every single season. And I don't think is being talked about it enough. Like obviously we see like it with Judge and Otani, like those guys are they're always getting talked about. But why is Kyle Schwarber's name never brought up in these conversations? I mean, this guy absolutely hits the crap out of the ball, and it's so consistent. I mean, I saw it from the beginning as a Cubs fan. He wasn't as high of a level as he is now, but it's just crazy how good of a power hitter he is, and it's just not being talked about enough, I feel like. And um, it'll be interesting to see what his market is like as a free agent this upcoming year. I think he's going to stay a Philly. Personally, I think he likes it there, and I think the Phillies really want him to stay long term. But it's just crazy the numbers he's been putting up the last 5 years, and this year especially. It's going to be interesting to see how many home runs he's finished at, and with PCA starting to go down in the MVP rankings. I could see Schwarber entering that conversation very soon if he
Mhm.
stays this hot. So yeah, I'm going with Kyle Schwarber as my underdog.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and keep it in the MLB, and we're gonna slide over and do our player of the week. So Mason, I'll let you go ahead and give your player of the week.
Yeah, I hate talking about the Red Sox, but I have to give it to Trevor Story. Past week he won AL Player of the Week, 3 home runs, 9 ribbies. Just been absolutely on fire with that charge of a Boston Red Sox team that's been, playing very well.
Yeah, I've always been a little bit higher on Story. I really liked him when he first came into the league on the Colorado Rockies. He started out his career very good, and then injuries have kind of held him back a little bit. So I'm kind of happy to see him have a little bit of a success story here in 2025. But I can see why you're not happy about it, obviously. But he is playing a huge factor into those wins that the Red Sox are putting together. So I like that pick a lot. For my pick, the reason I said I liked your Warman Bernaball pick is because I picked him for my player of the week as
Hmm.
well. Like you said, 12 for 26,
I could have went either
batted
way.
462. Yeah, exactly. Batted 462 in those games, 7 extra base hits, 7 RBIs, 3 home runs, like you said. So I also went with him as well.
Hmm.
All right. So now we're going to go ahead and slide over to our team of the week. So, Mason, who is your MLB team of the week?
Yeah, this one gets me excited because I didn't realize how close they kind of closed the gap. And I know we're going to get into it a little later, but the guys that they brought in is also going to be very exciting. So I picked the Padres, 7-3 in the last 10, 3 games back from first place Dodgers. It's really heating up for that, first in the division there. So obviously they had a great trade deadline, and like I said, we're gonna get into it in a little bit. But yeah, it's very exciting to see, and I hope they can take down the Dodgers. I don't know how realistic that is, but if any team's gonna be able to do it in that division, it's them.
Wouldn't that be something if they end up passing the Dodgers down the stretch here? That would be crazy. But yeah, I like that pick a lot. They've been playing very hot, and obviously we're the most aggressive team at the deadline.
Hmm.
So yeah, I like that pick. My pick for team of the week is a team that has not been talked about a lot this year, but boy, they're going to start being talked about if they keep playing at this rate. And that is the Miami Marlins, who are 7-3 in their last 10
Yeah.
games,
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
off a huge
yeah.
swept series against the New York Yankees. Um, they are 500 for the first time since early April, and they're starting to close in on one of those wild card spots. So, Kyle Stowers, Xavier Edwards, their pitching staff, all those guys looking like a really solid baseball players. And who knows if they keep playing at this level, maybe they can slide into the wild card. And wouldn't that be something for the Miami Marlins, where tickets were used to be $5 a game to get into because they couldn't sell enough? That would be quite the story if they continue at this pace. So I'm going with the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, that was crazy to see. I wasn't able to watch it just because it's like an in-state game, and you look on Instagram and you see like they're selling out like 36,000 tickets, and I'm like, holy crap! And of course, Yankees get swept in Yankee fashion. So, um, like from what we saw like a couple months ago to like where it is now, it's like night and day difference because we got like our
Yeah.
tickets for like $20 and we were first row in right field or like kind of center
Yeah,
field. So it's just crazy to just see how it flipped.
it is. It is very crazy. It'll be, like I said, it's just going to be interesting to see what they do down the
Hmm.
stretch, if they'll continue this hot streak or not. But definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
All right. The next topic I want to talk about for the MLB, obviously the trade deadline has passed. There will be no more trades this MLB season. I kind of just want to give a top three winners and top three losers for the both of us. So Mason, from 3 to 1, who are your winners in the MLB for this trade deadline?
So my three is going to be the Mets, and picking up Cedric Mullins, Ryan's Hensley, Tyler Rogers. Big acquisitions, and then two. I think I'll put Mariners, even though they got bigger names. I feel like, Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor, Caleb Ferguson, still big acquisitions. But I think that from 2 to 1, it's very slim as far as like the margin. It could have went either way. One, I'm going to go Padres. I talked about them a little earlier, how exciting it is that they could potentially make a push for the first in division. Picking up a elite closer with Mason Miller, J.P. Sears, and Ryan O'Hearn from Baltimore. It's going to be very exciting. I'd love to see what they can do in the future.
Yeah, I like that list a lot. For my winners, number 3, I had it between the Mets and Phillies. I went with the Phillies just because I get the Mets made more moves, but the Phillies really
Hmm.
plugged in the holes of weakness, I feel like. They needed a bat that could kind of relieve Max Kepler, because Max Kepler was a huge swing and a miss for them in free agency. And getting Harrison Bader, I think, helps that out a lot. And then they really needed a closing pitcher, and I think they got the other than Mason Miller, they got the best closer on the market, and that was Johan Duran. Just a very solid arm, and I think he's going to help them tremendously down the stretch. So I gave the slight advantage to the Phillies there, although I did like the Mets deadline a lot. My number 2 is also the Seattle Mariners. I really like the acquisitions of Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez. To put those two kind of hitters next to Cal Raleigh, and with Julio Rodriguez heating up a little bit.
Hmm.
I know Randy Arozarena's had a great month of July. So that team's starting to make some noise. I don't know if they'll have what it takes to pass the Astros, but they're definitely going to not go down without a fight. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then my number 1 team is also the Padres. I mean, they were by far the most aggressive team. get in a guy like Mason Miller when they already have one of the best bullpens in baseball is just a
Mhm.
fantastic move. And getting bats like Ryan O'Hearn and Roman Laureano from Baltimore was really good acquisitions for them. Ryan O'Hearn's been one of the most underrated hitters in baseball this season. And then they even added a depth starter in Nestor Cortez. I know he hasn't pitched a lot this year. I know there's a
Mhm.
lot of, you know, negativity around Nestor Cortez's name, but he's a solid depth piece to have in that rotation. So I really got to give credit when credit's due. The Padres took a swing, and I know a lot of people are oh, well, the Padres always go all in and sell all their prospects, and it never works out for them. But like we were just talking about, they're closing in on the Dodgers, and it's all about who's the hottest team going into the playoffs. So if they can make some noise, anything's possible. So I have them as my number one winner as well for the deadline. So now we're going to go to the more negative side and give our losers of the deadline. Mason, who are your three losers?
Yeah, so I number 3 is really just off of acquisitions rather than really, um, I think what they're doing in the season, and that's the Brewers. Like I wrote down hardly losers as far as the season goes, but for the trade deadline, they are considered a so. Didn't make any major deals, but still in great position, for the rest of the season. So they're number 3, and then 2, I went Braves. I was just looking up kind of like articles and stuff, and someone said Braves trade deadline was as eventful as their October will be, which I thought was pretty funny. Didn't make any major deals with them as well, and didn't even sell players like Ozuna. Just you'd think that they'd do something, and they just were dead in the water. So
Yeah.
they're kind of cooked in my opinion. But number 1 has to go to the Twins. You lose Correa, Johan Duran, Danny Colombe. Bader, Castro, Ty France, lose over 10 guys on a 26-man roster. Yeah, you keep Buxton, but at what cost?
Yeah.
It's just an empty locker room at this point. So, yeah, they're the biggest losers in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you put the Braves in there because I honestly forgot about them. There's no excuse for them. They should have sold. They have great
Exactly.
pieces to sell and get some prospects back, and I just can't believe they didn't end up selling off anyone. So I agree with that. They slipped my mind, so I didn't involve them in
Mhm.
my three. But I'm glad you put them there because that is a good pick. Um, my losers at number three. I know you put them at number one, but I put the Minnesota Twins at number three. I get losing like 10 players out of your 26 man roster is crazy. And I know that the fans are probably like depressed right now. But I will say they got a ton of prospects in return for all those trades they made. Especially that Johan Duran trade. They made out very well in that trade. And if you're not going to make any noise in the playoffs, you might as well sell. But boy, did they sell a lot. They
Yeah,
they
they
were
did.
the fire sale of the MLB at this deadline. So they are somewhat of losers, but at the same time, you got to keep in mind they did get a ton of prospects back, which at the end of the day is the goal of selling. So I didn't put them at number one, but I do agree that they are losers. Number two, I put the Milwaukee Brewers as well. I just don't get how you're
Mhm.
the best team in the NL Central and you don't get any players at all to help the team out a little bit. If they just got like a Eugenio Suarez, they, in my opinion, by far
Oh,
run away
yeah.
with the NL Central, and it's
Yeah.
not even close. Um, I'm thankful that they did it because now it keeps it somewhat close for the Cubs to be able to, you know, stay with
Mhm.
them. But the thing I noticed is like a lot of starting pitchers didn't get traded at this deadline, but a lot of position players did get traded at the deadline. The Brewers didn't need any pitching; they needed position players that could assure that offense that
Mhm.
gets cold at times. So for them to not capitalize and get any of those bats that were on the market really baffled me. And I'm not complaining, like I said, but they definitely are a loser in that regard. But like you said, they're having a phenomenal season, so maybe it won't even matter going in a month or so. And the number one losers, I got to go on a little rant here. It's the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs are going to Cub at the end of the day. I mean, they have a great farm system, they have great names that can be used in trades to make the team better, and they don't trade any of those guys. It is the most frustrating thing I've seen. Ken Rosenthal, the day before the deadline, came out saying that the Cubs were going to be one of the most aggressive teams at the deadline. So it got my hopes up. And we walked away with 4 players. Now, I will say this, those 4 players will help the team, except Mike Soroka, who got pulled in the second inning yesterday in his first start with us, who is now looking like he might be out for the season with a right shoulder strain. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the fact we needed a starting pitcher so badly and we couldn't walk away with one really just hurts. And with the Brewers passing you, you really needed a momentum boost, and making some trades could have really helped that out. And I just don't think they did enough. And I think they're going to regret that, especially since Soroka, who's the only starter you traded for, went down in his first start with us. So I just can't believe that they weren't more aggressive, and it hurts. So for me, the Cubs are the number 1 losers in the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's understandable. Very understandable.
Yeah. All right. So that's going to pretty much wrap up the MLB part of this episode. So now we're going to go ahead and slide over to the NFL because training camp has begun. Preseason is about to begin. So with me thinking about those things, I kind of want to, go into little talks about our teams. So what are you most excited for this season for your team? And what also discourages you the most for your team this season going into the season?
All right, so if you've been watching the pod, NFL football and everything like that is my bread and butter. I'm on Twitter. I got all like the videos and like press conferences up on my phone, like when they're posted. So I'm literally up to date on everything Giants related. So I'll Malik Neighbors in the beginning of training camp was kind of questionable with this toe injury that he's had since college that they said, and they didn't want to do surgery or anything, so they kind of disregarded that. He said he's able to play. It's just kind of like a rocking issue, or it just kind of is annoying. But he's been absolutely balling. Russell Wilson has been getting him the ball and getting it, like he's been going deep with him. So Neighbors has been making, Neighbors plays. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like a top 5 receiver in the league this year. That might be my hype kind of speaking to me, but it all depends on the O line, which is one of the most discouraging things. If they can stay healthy and Russell Wilson can be the player that he's been in training camp, I think it could go very well as far as numbers wise. Wins, I don't know if that'll translate really. I'd just like to watch a somewhat watchable, New York Giants football team. And on the defensive side of the ball, Abdul Carter has been a beast that I have not even like seen before. Like this kind of guy on defense. Yeah, he's throwing around Giants O linemen, but the fact that he's doing this as a rookie, just 1 or 2 months in and on an NFL jersey, it's been absolutely amazing. People are over here already comparing him to like Lawrence Taylor and stuff, which you can't do that. Yeah, he's a rookie. Sure, he asked for his number as soon as he got drafted, but still. And the D line is our strongest point on the team. But the weakest point I'd say is our cornerbacks. I like Paulson Adebo, the new addition, but Deontay Banks has been getting cooked a lot. Sure, it's Malik Neighbors who's been doing it, but you get guys like Darius Slayton and Wandale Robinson making plays. You want to see him be able to kind of be aggressive and pick up that cornerback one role that you're supposed to be. He was a top 10 pick just a couple years ago. So now he's been hopefully just been able to be a cornerback too, but he's looking like quarterback 3 right now. But yeah, I'm very excited. We'll see how preseason is.
All right. I like it. For my team, the Dolphins, there wasn't a whole lot of noise during the offseason. We really didn't make any huge acquisitions or anything. The biggest thing was obviously the Ramsey trade, where we somehow managed to get Minka Fitzpatrick back in that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for what most excites me, I really like where the offense is at right now. It looks like they're going to have a really big bounce back year. Obviously, last season they took a very big step back. A lot of that was coming from Tua's injury, I will say, but Tyreek Hill had a terrible year. I get he had his wrist injury, but it was still a really bad year. It looks like Hill, Waddle having a great camp right now. The thing that's been talked about a lot has been the running back room. Devon Achane, Jalen Wright, and Ollie Gordon even looks like he's going to be getting a lot of third down running back reps. So I like what I'm hearing about that. Sounds like Mike McDaniel's cooked up a little bit of a new offensive scheme that's been working a little bit. So I'm really excited for this offense, but I'm kind of taking what I'm hearing about the offense with a grain of salt because of
Mhm.
my negative and what discourages me, and that is the secondary. This team's defensive secondary is absolutely awful. It's a dumpster fire. We obviously lost Jalen Ramsey. We released Kendall Fuller, and Kader Kohu, who is supposed to be our cornerback one, is going to be out for the season with a torn ACL. Right now, it looks like Jack Jones is going to be our corner one, who's apparently looked decent, but I'm just not feeling confident in that at all. Now, I will say the defense does have some strong suits, especially with the D line and the outside linebackers. Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips coming back. That's huge. Obviously, Zach Sealer, one of the most underrated defensive tackles in the league, in my opinion. And then Chop Robinson, very excited to see what he has in his second season because the second half of his first season last year was extremely good and promising. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Obviously, excited to have Minka Fitzpatrick back. But man, those corners are just it's a dumpster fire right now. I saw we offered Rasul Douglas, who could help a ton, but I'm not getting my hopes up or anything. So as excited as I am to see that Tua is fantastic and he's only thrown one interception this whole training camp, the other part of my head is like, yeah, the only reason he has one interception in training camp is because he's throwing to Pop Warner cornerbacks right now. So
Mhm.
it's kind of a checks and balance system right now, and I really won't know until I see them play in the regular season. So it'll be interesting to see. I'd say excitement level for the Dolphins, I'm probably at like a 6 out of 10. I'm not gonna lie. I think they're gonna be slightly better than last season, but not by a crazy amount. I think they'll score a lot, but they're gonna give up a lot too. Kind of like what we saw from the Bengals last year. I think that's gonna be a similar style of what our team
Mm.
is like going into this
Okay.
season.
Yeah, I like that comparison. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, for me as excitement, I'd probably do like a 8.5 or like a 9 just because like compared to last year, man, there was games I couldn't even watch. Like I hate
Yeah.
like looking for like Giants are my favorite team, they're my favorite team to watch. And when I can't watch them, I get a guy like Daniel Jones running an offense. It's horrible. You
Yeah, I
get
get
3
you.
wins on the season, so anyone else at quarterback I'm happy with. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Giants will be a fun team to watch. I don't think they're playoff contenders or anything like that, but
No,
they're
not at
definitely,
all.
like you said, going to be much better than they were last season. So it'll be interesting to see.
Mhm. Yep.
All right. So finally, for our last segment of the show, we wanted to do a ranking system. Mason picked the topic for this week. We are going to be doing our top 5 stadiums in sports. Now, I don't know. I did all American stadiums. I don't know if you have any
Yeah,
international.
I did
Okay,
too.
so
Mhm.
we'll change the title to top 5 American stadiums in sports.
Okay.
We'll go 5 to 1. Mason, I'll let you go ahead and give your list.
Alright, so I went kinda off of a few different criterias. So, first I went off of, I guess presence and like kind of how they're viewed as like by other fans in the sport and just in general in America. And then off of like pleasure of like what you like would want to go to. So at number 5, I went with Oracle Park. One of the most pleasing stadiums in the MLB as far as like just that classic baseball feeling. Right on the water, in San Francisco. So it's beautiful. And then now I'm kind of go like I also put heavy into like history and stuff like that. I'm a big history guy. So and as far as greatness as well. So 4, I went Lambeau Field, Packers Stadium, the most storied stadium in football, oldest continually operated stadium in the NFL, opened in 1957, 81,000 capacity, and still the largest today in the NFL. So or one of the largest. So yeah, it just has a lot of history there. And then from 3 to 1 is just baseball now. So going off of that same kind of format, I went 3 with Wrigley. So much history with this field. Opened in 1914, second oldest in the MLB, and great environment through and through. From when it opened to today. Just fun. It looks great to be at. 2, Fenway Park, oldest stadium in MLB, if not sports. Opened in 1912, rich with history and also a crazy atmosphere. Known for the Green Monster, 37-foot high, wall over in left field. So that's just been huge as well, kind of like with Wrigley. And then 1 is a stadium I wish I could have been to just to see, but freaking New York, they got to do what they got to do. Call it bias or whatever, but old Yankee Stadium, I would love to have just seen that the amount of history walking through those walls. Um, just 26 World Series opened in 1923. Held like an amazing presence in some of the most greatest players of all time, whether they were on the home side or the away side. And it's known as the Cathedral of Sports. So it's a shame and one of the worst decisions to tear it down. You could have made it into a big museum. You know how many people would have paid to walk through those walls and just see greatness, like just in that presence. So, yeah, that's my 5-1.
No MSG?
I was gonna put MSG. The only reason I didn't was because of kind of what's been accomplished. Once I went off that, I was kind of
Fair
like,
enough.
I can't really put them in the list. So then I kind of went off of Oracle Park. Just it looks nice.
All right. For my
Yeah.
list, I just want to stress that this is my personal top five. I'm not
Okay.
saying that everyone needs to think that this is the top five in sports.
Hmm.
There was a couple different things going into this. One, was kind of just like the looks of it. I really like made my picks based off of like the, what's the
Okay.
word? Like the
Architecture.
aesthetic. Yeah, the
Yeah.
architecture, the aesthetic that it gives, those kind of things. And then
Hmm.
also I took into consideration, like history and
Yeah.
atmosphere
Yeah.
as well were like
Hmm.
some things that I put into consideration. But I don't expect everyone to agree with this list. This is my personal list. I'll start with number 5, a little bit of a bias pick, but I'm going with the Kaseya Center. I love the thought of it being in downtown Miami. I love the spot
Hmm.
right on the bay. The outside, I love the white like to it, like just the all white building. It looks very clean and modern. I
Very
love the
modern. Yeah.
state. I obviously love the arena itself. And during playoff time, that place rocks. It gets rocking in there. It's very loud. When they do the white hot, it's really cool looking with all the white shirts around the whole arena. So I put that at my number 5 because I've had some very good memories there. And I enjoy that stadium a lot. So that's my number 5.
Hmm.
My number 4, I'm going with PNC Park, where the Pittsburgh Pirates play. I think that has
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
coolest backdrops that any stadium has, with downtown Pittsburgh right there. Some very iconic moments have happened there. Obviously, not for a while because the Pirates have been pretty bad lately, but I really like that stadium. And when the Pirates are good, I always think back of the 2015 wild card game when the Chicago Cubs played them. It was one of the craziest atmospheres I've ever seen on television. It was absolutely eruptive in there. So I'm going with PNC Park at my number 4. My number
Nice.
3, I'm going with the oldest park in baseball, and that's Fenway. I think it's one of the most iconic
Hmm.
stadiums in sports. I've never been. I want to go really bad. It's the only Boston
Yep.
sporting place that I want to go visit.
Hmm.
Um, so for that alone, it has to be on my list. So I'm going with Fenway Park, another place that has so many iconic moments, and I know that the fans are rocking during playoff time as well there. So yeah, going with Fenway. Number 2, this one is very uh I picked this based off of how bad I want to go there and see it because of how cool it looks. And that is SoFi. I really want to go check that
Yeah.
place out.
I almost put it
And it
on the
looks,
list. Yeah.
yeah, it looks so cool on TV and stuff. And I don't know as much as the atmosphere there or anything because, the Chargers aren't, yeah, I think, and it's, LA, so you never really know. But yeah, I'm going with SoFi. It looks like a very sick place to be, and I do want to go there a lot. I was also thinking about putting crypto there, which is the other new
Hmm.
uh, LA
Yeah.
stadium. So
LA.
this
Yeah.
those two places look very cool, but I'm going with SoFi. I want to go there pretty bad. Um, and
Nice.
finally, number 1, call it bias, but I'm going Wrigley Field. It's so iconic. The Ivy Wall,
Hmm.
the history that runs in that ballpark, and I'll stand on this. The fan base for the Chicago Cubs is the best fan base in sports. Where else are you going to find a full sold out crowd on a Friday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Like, I know a lot of sports fans actually make the joke of like, do Cubs fans have actual jobs? Because how are they always sold out when it's like a 1 o'clock game on a weekday? But it's always a full house, and the Cubs have been bad for a while now, and it doesn't matter. Like the fans will still show up and cheer, and there's so many traditions at that field. I've only been there once in my life, and I really want to go back there, especially now that they're going to be the 2027 All-Star game. We might have to look into that in the future.
Yeah.
But I'm going with Wrigley Field at my number one, although it is a biased pick.
No, that's completely understandable. I was thinking of putting MSG, but I don't know what it was. I think it's just kind of like the visual pleasing part of it what kind of went into it. Because like when you're
Mhm.
inside, don't get me wrong, it looks cool, but some of these other spots just I think look a little cooler in my opinion, and also have a lot more history. So maybe not more, but I have a lot of history. So,
Yeah, I get that. I
but
get that.
yeah,
I will say though, I did really enjoy that MSG tour that we did. I thought that was a really cool
no, yeah,
experience, and that
yeah.
alone almost slid it into my top five. I will say that.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
All right. Well, that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode. So thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of GM Sports Report, where every play counts. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be able to see our weekly episodes on all things sports. For additional content, check the description to see links to our Instagram and TikTok account. This is Grant and Mason. Sign off for now. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you guys.